Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist.
Morby, founder of the Sub2 community and star of the A&E hit show Triple Digit Flip. Welcome to the show, Pace.
What's up, George? How you doing?
Doing fabulous today. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm killing it.
I know that, and that's why I invited you on the show. I met your students. Your students are amazing. They have such amazing things to say about your community, and just really had to get to the bottom of that. This is a show you're going to want to listen to the end to, because we're going to talk about mentorship, creative finance, and a lot of things that I think are really going to help people get their real estate career moving. So maybe we could start with creative finance. There seems to be some sort of a limiting belief out there that keeps people from seeing creative finance as being like the way to go when you get into commercial real estate. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And if so, what can we do to just smash that limiting belief today?
You know, I have a big goal in my mind set out 5 years ago, and that goal was to normalize the conversation around creative finance, because you've got commercial brokers that their prowess is how long they've been in business, not what they've accomplished. I'm sure you've talked to brokers, and the first thing out of their mind is like, I've been in this business 17 years. I've been in this business 25 years. We had a broker about 6 months ago, had a listing in Houston, Texas, 300 units, and we offered seller finance. Seller obviously had the property on the market for over 100 days. So we offered, hey, we'll give you the number. Obviously you haven't sold the property. We'll give you the number you're looking for, but we got to get terms instead, right? I'm not going to come in with cash. The debt market has changed dramatically. And the broker said, I've been in this business 17 years, and I think creative finance is a waste of my time. And I said, is it because you think you're not getting paid a commission? Because I'll make sure you get paid your commission. And then immediately the conversation changed to, wow, okay, you can pay my commission? And I realized, as I've already known for a very, very long time, I realized in that moment, the only reason he didn't want to present the offer to his client was because he thought he wasn't going to get his commission. Now, we got to remind ourselves that brokers and people in the commercial space are all here to make money, and I totally get that. Well, guess what? He ended up not submitting the offer to that client, and then he ended up losing the listing after about roughly 6 months. That's what happens, right? When you can't sell a client's asset, you lose the listing. Welcome to the new world. If the debt market is changing your ability to sell a property, but I'm still offering full price, and you're not presenting the offer to the client, it is so crazy to me. So we ended up buying the deal. I closed on the deal actually this morning. I just got confirmation we closed on the deal this morning. Broker, we ended up going directly to the seller, offering exactly what I told the broker. The broker refused to give to the seller, and we ended up just going directly to the seller. So creative finance is literally the only thing I do. And we bought 1,600 units this year. So when people tell me, oh, creative finance is like this niche product, I'm like, it's not niche to me. It's literally 100% of what I utilize to purchase my properties. And I bought more properties than most people do in maybe 5 years, 10 years sometimes, all in one single year using creative finance.
Yeah, I love it. Use some of those techniques in my own career in multifamily. And I got to tell you, we got to smash this limiting belief, because I tell you that it's possible. There's some great people out there doing it. People like you and Jake and Gino, Bill Ham, making things happen. So
yeah, I think number one thing that you're going to feel in resistance is, number one, you're going to run into a broker that feels as if creative finance, you hear these like no money down techniques, which do exist. That's about 15% of what we end up acquiring. But when we're working with sellers and brokers, we're not paying zero down. We have to come in with some sort of money to make sure that the commissions are being paid, closing costs are being paid, those types of things. So number one, limiting belief, if you're a commercial broker out there, guys, we pay your commissions every single time. We make sure everybody gets paid. Number two is that a commercial broker who's just dealing with traditional real estate, when they're given an offer in the creative finance space, seller finance, or even taking over, or even assuming debt. It's amazing all the brokers that don't even understand assuming debt, even though it's in their commercial license class, they still don't understand it. And if they don't understand it, they still won't pitch it to their seller. So for the listeners out there, guys, it is 100% of what I'm doing to acquire real estate is I have not had a single credit check in over 700 transactions. I have not had somebody ask for a job history. Never asked somebody. Most people don't even ask what my bank balance is. Nobody's asking for my real estate schedule. Nobody's asking for the credentials. I'm giving them the terms they want. I'm coming in with a proof of funds, obviously, when that's needed. And I'm realizing that there are way more of these transactions out there than anybody ever educated me. And that's why we're gobbling up assets all over the country.
Yeah, awesome. Can you tell us how you would approach a deal like that? Maybe just pick any one of them, maybe the one you just closed. So you just get in there or take us a couple of steps back. So you told us about the broker.
Let's talk about how we find the
broker
deal.
had some resistance.
Let's talk about how we find the deals, right? So
yeah.
We find the deals through probably about 5 different avenues. One of them is going to be really hard for some of your listeners is this year I bought $250 million in real estate, and $100 million of that was from my brand, right? People DMing me on Instagram, people sending me stuff on YouTube, people coming to me because I underwrite deals for people on YouTube all the time. So let's take $100 million off the table. That's not really an opportunity for most people. Let's go back to when I was first getting into the business. How did I find these opportunities? Well, you got to go to brokers. Brokers typically are the constraint and the bottleneck of this entire business. The sellers don't know they can go directly to an investor because they don't. Where's the conduit? Where's the conversation piece? What website is there that a seller, an end user can actually have a conversation? They don't exist. And so you either A, have to go to a broker, which we do, or B, I have to go off market. And so I've got a deal we just bought in Illinois, 264 units. The way we found that deal, it's 41 buildings, and all 41 buildings have a different color, shade, and gradient of their roofs. And we saw it from the sky. Right? We have somebody on the team that's literally looking at disrepaired roofs. They're looking at junk in yards. They're looking at obvious signs of disrepair. And disrepair to us means mismanagement. Mismanagement shows us tired landlord status. So we then run a filter on the properties and we go, wow, these people have owned this property for over 20 years. We call them directly. We literally call them directly, just pick up the phone and we say, hi, we're such and such investment group. We're looking for an asset to buy in this area. Depending on what time of the year it is, we change the script. So like right now, here we are going into the end of the year. We always change the script and say, we need to buy an asset before the end of the year. We're quick to move. We need to buy something for depreciation purposes. Sellers then understand that conversation. And we say, we're looking to pay the price that you're looking for. We literally tell them right up front, the first 5 sentences, we only buy assets on seller finance. So we plant the seed right up front. And we're weeding people out. We're weeding people out. And that conversation usually goes really, really smoothly when you're direct to seller. But when you're with a broker, here's the challenge. 80% of our leads come from brokers. 20% of them come from off market, right? Going directly to the sellers, looking for signs of distress. When we go to a broker, we say the same thing, right? We're looking for assets that have been on the market or have had a hard time selling because we understand that the agent is currently looking for the easiest way to present an offer to their seller. Always the easiest way. What's the easiest thing that I can do? And they've got 15, 20, maybe even 30 people that are constantly sending in LOIs. They're sending in proof of funds. They're sending in all sorts of their credentials. So that agent is having the market tell them what that asset is worth. And so I'm not really going to look at an asset when I'm looking in creative finance until probably the 90th day it's been on market, because at that point, now the broker has been educated on what the market is willing to bear. Okay, if I come in on day 1 offering creative finance, the agent hasn't had enough time to process all the other offers and conversations. And so for me, I'm looking for the people that have been on the market 90 days, more. Okay, the longer, the better. In fact, if I go online right now and you want buy a piece of land to go develop, you go to landwatch.com. 2 minutes, I got a seller finance deal. There's 12,000 listings right now on owner finance on landwatch.com for development, multifamily, commercial, 12,000 listings right now that are actively in the listing. It says owner finance. Okay, 12,000. And in fact, if I go on there right now, let's find the exact number. So this is what's funny is that the brokers that limit this, it's amazing to me that I'll go to full United States owner finance. Okay, 12,000.
Hey, Pace, do you want to just go and share your screen?
Yeah, I'd love to.
That would be more engaging.
Yeah, let's do it. There you go. 12,664 listings, owner financing, not just land. Okay. So if you go on, like, let's go to Idaho. I was looking at a nice acreage. You'll get mobile home parks. You'll get full on multifamily in here. You'll get development opportunities. You'll get homesteads, 6 acres, 3 bed, 2 bath, 3,500 square feet. Look at this. I mean, it is, you'll get gas stations, all sorts of stuff. Literally every one of these 12,000 listings across the country are on one website, and they specifically say they'll do owner financing. 12,000. So when people say, how do I find these? Well, there are websites that are out there, right? Now, if you're looking specifically for multifamily, the challenge is now I'm going to go to probably Crexi. I'll probably go to LoopNet. And if you go to LoopNet and you type in owner financing, you'll get some opportunities there too. So those do exist. Here, let's pull it up. Let's go to LoopNet. If you go to LoopNet, you will find specifically, the problem with LoopNet is there's not really a great search feature. Okay, this is why I like Crexi a lot more. So if I go into LoopNet, there's not really a keyword search ability. Okay, that you don't just have, you can't just come in here and throw a random word in here. So you kind of have to hope that, let's do seller finance. LoopNet's a little bit outdated. Okay. So let's go to Crexi. Crexi is a little bit easier for owner finance, seller finance type of opportunity. So you can search by location, you can search by keyword, you can search by all sorts of things. So owner finance, all of these, every single one of these, multifamily, hotels, Econo brand, warehouses, single homes. This one, look at this, JK Building. I actually looked at this one to buy, and I'm currently negotiating this deal right here. This guy built the deal, and he's like, I want to get the highest number possible. He's a smart guy. He knows that if he sells at a higher number, but offers owner financing right there, owner willing to sell building or do owner finance with the right conditions. Had a great conversation with him. We're looking for like a studio / workspace in the back to work on some special projects. So these are everywhere. They're everywhere. So when people are saying to me, oh man, this is a niche product. No, it's not. You have a niche limited mindset. You haven't taken 30 seconds to go and type something into the internet, and your education of 17 years and 25 years being a commercial broker means nothing to me. It's the same thing to me. This is how I feel about some very limited commercial brokers. Is look at, have you ever watched the documentary of Michael Jordan, The Last Dance? Did you ever see that?
No, I haven't.
Phenomenal. Okay, so here's what was going on in the NBA before Michael Jordan came around. People were drinking, smoking before practice. They weren't taking things seriously. This is the same thing about golf, right? Golf was very much not a physical sport before Tiger Woods came on the scene. And so these people had been in golf for 30 years, 50 years, 70 years. Golf was a timeless sport. Here comes a maverick, a guy who's working out twice a day, hitting the ball 300 yards. Then you got Michael Jordan coming into the game, dunking, going around people, doing moves that nobody else had ever seen before. And the people that were on Michael Jordan's team, the Chicago Bulls, when he first came on, would say stuff to him like, that's not how it's done here. We've been in the league for 20 years. You need to sit down, young man, and wait your turn. And Michael Jordan says, no, I'm going to change the entire face of history. And so for me, do I consider myself a maverick? 100% I consider myself a maverick. I will steamroll over whoever I have to show people that the only people that make money in the first 3, 4, 5 months of multifamily investment are banks. You guys are going out and paying all sorts of fees to bankers. Look, we have a fund. I have $400 million in a fund. I like buying deals with cash too, but when you look at how much money people are making in these interest-only bridge loans that are being given in multifamily, it makes it really challenging. And I'm like, man, I got to pay all this money to a broker, and then I got to pay all this money to a lender. What if I just went directly to the seller? Because the seller who spent 20, 30 years paying off that asset, stabilizing that asset, improving that asset, decides I'm ready to retire, but he's got to pay all these fees and all these things to everybody else just for him to find me. And so for us, all day long, I'm trying to go direct to seller when I possibly can, because I can give the seller way higher of a purchase price. Take, for example, I've got a Mario. Okay, I'll give you a good example, start to finish. Mario, seller, this year, 43 unit deal. Not every deal I buy is a 200 unit deal. I bought a 30 unit, 43 unit, another 30 unit, a 50 unit, 105 unit, and a 16 unit this year, kind of smaller assets. In the 43 unit I bought from Mario, a gentleman from Romania, and the broker couldn't sell the property. I ended up going directly to Mario directly. And I had a conversation with Mario, and he said, hey, I see that you're trying to sell this asset for $3 million. It was on the market, off the market, on the market, and now it's back off again. Was there something you were looking for that the broker couldn't get you? And he says, yeah, $3 million. I go, that's it? He goes, yeah, he couldn't give me $3 million. And I go, well, did you ever underwrite and look at the deal and maybe realize that the asset's probably closer to about $2.6 million max? He says, yeah, I've owned this thing for 30 years. Of course I know, but I bought it and I've owned it and I've gone through pain and anguish. And so I'm looking for the next person who wants to hold this and make a big chunk of money. And of course I'm selling it I want to sell it for 3 million, because at the end of the day, the broker is going to take his pound of flesh, surveys, all these other things. Everybody's going to take their pound of flesh, and I'm going to walk away with 2.3 million bucks, especially after taxes and all the things I got to do. And I said, well, what if we just work a deal out directly and I offer owner finance at the exact number you want? And he goes, 3 million? I go, yep, I would pay you 3 million as long as you give me the terms I need. So this is the line. This is the opening line I have with sellers. I say, I'll give you the price you want as long as you give me the terms you need. And I liken it to a seesaw. And so sometimes I'm on Zoom with sellers, sometimes I'm in person, sometimes I'm on the phone, but I tell them it's kind of like a seesaw. You want a really high purchase price, so your side is way up here. You got a really high purchase price. Well, I need a low down payment or a low interest rate to make that make sense. But if you want a big down payment, right, you want my side to come up really, really high, then you got to lower your price. And what do most sellers want in the multifamily space is they're not really looking for the cash. They didn't need the cash last year. They didn't need the cash 5 years ago. Most sellers in the multifamily space care more about the top line number than anything else. They want to win the game of negotiations. And so Mario, him and I agreed to $3 million purchase price, $0 down, 4% interest with a 50-year note. 50-year note. Now, how does that benefit Mario? The way it benefits Mario is Mario actually received the $3 million plus 4% interest. So over the next whatever amount of years, he'll actually probably get closer to $5-6 million in collected money. But how else does that benefit him? Besides the fact he's making way more money, the way it benefits him is now he doesn't have to do a 1031 exchange, which is the only thing for him to avoid the taxes, right? Think about if you're a retiring multifamily investor and you want to retire. What do? Well, you sell all your assets, you pay all these taxes because you've been kicking the 1031 can down the road for the last 50 years. Now you got Uncle Sam's got to make his, depreciation recapture payback and all these other things you got to pay. But in seller finance, I can mitigate that and I can make payments to a trust. And the way our CPAs set this all up is that most of our sellers are avoiding the tax altogether because of the way we're structuring the payments. So not only is he going to receive the $3 million, he's not going to pay the taxes he normally would have paid. He doesn't have to go through a broker that has to be his mouthpiece that misconstrues and mistranslates what we're actually talking about. We don't have to pay closing costs. He doesn't have to pay closing costs. He doesn't have to worry about the repairs. I will inherit his team and his staff and his problems, and I'll take those over and I can close in literally 3 days. Whereas a normal multifamily transaction at that magnitude with brokers involved, I mean, you're talking 90 to 180 days to close one deal because there's all these people with their hands in the pie. So for me, I just go direct to the seller, work out the deal. Now, what else is a benefit to Mario? Mario doesn't have to look for the 1031. The safest investment for him is to create a note with me, a promissory note, that if I default in that note, it states he takes over an asset he already understands, an asset he already has managed for 30 years. So worst case scenario, he takes back an asset, didn't have to worry about taxes, didn't worry about having to pay all these fees and all this stuff. And the way our note is specifically structured is he doesn't even have to foreclose on me. Agreement simply has a performance clause in it. States if I don't perform, he gets the asset back. Okay. It is unbelievably, undeniably in 10 or 15 different ways, way better, way faster, way more profitable for a seller to work with me direct. How did I find that deal? A broker. It was an on-market deal, came off market. Broker refused to offer seller finance, fell back off market. I called the seller direct and I said, I'll pay $3 million. He goes, great. How would you propose? I go, you want a really high purchase price. We agree, right? Yeah. Okay, then I need a low down payment with low interest. If you're okay to do that, I'll pay the $3 million. Now, other people will ask the same question. Why would the seller give you 50-year payments? Well, because the seller is retired. He doesn't want a big swath of cash. There's no balloon on the situation. And when he dies, he's 55 now. When he dies, which I don't think he'll make it to 105 years old to see all that cash, he didn't invest in real estate for himself. He invested in real estate for his estate. This is why it's called real, estate. You're buying real assets for building your estate and your wealth and your family's legacy. And so he made it state that when he passes, the person who takes over the responsibility of those payments is his estate, his family, his son, his 12-year-old kid. So for me, when every single deal that we work out is identical, it's constantly the same thing. We've got another 600 units we're negotiating right now in Houston, Texas, and on market, went to the broker, said, hey, I'll pay the asking price. I even think that the asking price is $5 million over asking. It's a $52 million purchase. I think it's worth 45 mil. I'll pay the 52 million, but we got to have me assume the existing debt plus whatever equity he has to sell or finance. Broker says no. Here we are 5.5 months later. Broker's coming back to me because he's losing his listing agreement in 2 weeks. Right. And he's saying, what was that offer? So for me right now, especially, we've got interest rates rising tomorrow again, and interest rates will rise again in February. It's going to happen 2 more times in the next 3 months. People that deny that are probably loan officers or real estate agents that they're in denial. They're ostriches with their head in the sand. If you're an agent, you're a loan officer, you will get your butt kicked in the next 24 months. It's inevitable. If you already haven't lost half your income this year, Chase, Wells Fargo, Loan Depot, Rocket Mortgage, everybody has had not thousands, but tens of thousands of layoffs in the loan world because people can't get loans. So the days of creative finance and going directly to the seller when an agent is not willing to work with you is at an all-time high. And I think over the next 24 to 48 months, it's going to be red freaking hot.
Yeah, I love it, because I was going to ask you what sort of strategies you think are the way out and what are on the way in. So obviously seller financing is something we're going to see more and more of as it becomes more expensive to obtain traditional financing. Anything else you'd like to add to that list?
Yeah, this is the other thing too, is like when you see all these syndicators, right? I'm a syndicator too, so I'm not criticizing syndicators, but they're limited to a very specific type of debt. It's typically bridge debt with interest only that they've got to refinance out at 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever their debt structure is. It's horrible. The debt structure in commercial lending is trash. When I go and get a single family refi, it's 30-year fixed.
Yeah, fully amortized.
Fully amortized. You commercial brokers have figured it out. You guys have figured out, how do I keep the small guy out of this business? And how do I keep the big guy in here to push sales prices as high as possible and only have them pay interest only? The great thing about seller finance is I don't need your trash debt. I will go directly to the seller. I will have an amortized note. So when you guys are going out and you're syndicating, here's what your debt and your lenders are forcing you to do. They're forcing you, okay, to sell off or refinance an asset after 5 years. I'm not interested in that. I want to hold assets for the long term. I look at, check this out. When you look at a 500 unit apartment building or a 5 unit or a 50 unit, does not matter to me. Those tenants, they think they work for themselves and they think they work for their boss. But the reality is 30% of who they work for is me. Okay. Right. I have an army, thousands of people that leave every single day that don't even know my name, don't even know that I exist, that I own the asset that they're renting. They go to their job, they make $1,000, 300 of that on average is coming to pay down my debt. And the problem, when you go out and you get commercial loans, you're not paying down debt. And so you syndicators are forced into exit strategies that don't actually make sense. Right now, pay attention to this, guys. Right now, this month, 1,400 properties will go into default, right? This month, 1,400 properties are going into default because their bridge debt, their temporary debt is in default. They can't refinance out of it because interest rates have doubled. And now that asset they bought 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 18 months ago, 12 months ago, no longer pencils at what they bought it for, okay? The debt structure inside of the commercial world is absolute garbage, and it forces people's hands. I think that multifamily is going on sale over the next 18 to 24 months as these big syndicators that went and bid off way more than they could chew. They went and raised a bunch of capital, bought assets with temporary 2-year, 3-year, 4-year interest-only payments that are they're forcing them to refinance. What are they going to refinance into? Interest rates are 7, 8, and I think that they're going to go to 9% by summer. They have to. So what's great about creative finance is it's easier for me to get in, and it's way easier for me to stay in, because now my tenants that are actually putting 30% of their income into my asset, it's actually paying the debt down. I have amortization, true, real amortization. I'm done buying properties without amortization. We've got two big assets, one in Charlotte, 408 unit deal. We syndicated a bunch of money on. And every time we make a big old payment to that lender, that our debt lender, I look at that and I'm like, none of that's going to principal.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I get it. It's the way that it's set up. But again, I want to be Michael Jordan. I want to come in and completely disrupt the entire industry and come in and go, I'm just going to work directly with the seller, because all that money I'm paying to you on an interest only payment, the seller's not getting any of that, right? So it's better for the seller and it's better for the buyer. And this entire industry was not set up for brokers. It wasn't set up for lenders. It was set up for the seller to get what they need and the buyer to get what they need. And everybody else in between is manipulating that entire situation. Now, it sounds like I'm beating up lenders, and it sounds like I'm beating up brokers. We're paying a broker right now $1 million that presented a seller finance opportunity. I want to pay you as a broker. I want to pay you, but not the people that resist and won't even submit my offer. I'll just wait until your listing ends and I'll buy the asset without you. So either A, let's do it together, or B, I'm going to do it regardless.
Yeah, great stuff. I love those deals with seller financing. It's good to know my investors are safe, that we don't have to get out in 1, 2, 4, or even 5 years. Those are the deals that I've been looking for them even more these days as interest rates continue to climb. So we're recording this in the middle of December. It'll probably come out early January. And certainly we're going to have another Fed meeting in the meantime, and rates will almost certainly be 50 basis points higher than they currently are. So I think you're giving some great advice. Just love it. Love it, love it, love it. I'm going to watch this episode 3 times. But you know that real estate is not just about the technical. It's not just about the methods, etc. It's really about people. So can you tell us, did you have a sort of aha moment when you realized, wow, if I understand people, that totally changes the game?
Yeah, I had a coach a long time ago. So I used to be a loan officer, right? So I know a thing or two about loans and all this type of stuff. I used to be a licensed loan officer, and I had this guy on my team. His name was Steve Meixta. Steve Meixta comes to me and goes, Pace, you can't be on my team without a coach. You have to go get a coach. And I go, I've never had a coach before. He's like, well, you're going to hire this guy, and if you don't hire him, then I'm going to fire you. I was like, oh, okay. So I hire. His name's John Bohm. Find out he charges $500 an hour. At the time, I thought that was all the money in the entire world. $500 an hour. I'm like, my attorney doesn't charge $500 an hour. Who does this guy think he is? Well, John Bohm turns out today, fast forward, he's the head mindset coach for the Arizona Cardinals. This guy was very top notch, and I had no idea how lucky I was. I did know. So on the behest of Steve Meixta, I go down and I meet with John Bohm. We meet in a Starbucks, and my limited mindset was like, I'm meeting some guy at Starbucks who's charging me $500 an hour just so I keep my freaking job. How dumb am I right now? Well, John changed my life in one meeting. In 1 hour, he changed my life. And he basically went through, and he was a non-interested third party. This was a very critical thing for me to start bringing into my life. Somebody who's a non-interested third party, looking at my situation, everything around me. He had nothing invested, he had nothing to gain, and could actually give me unbiased opinions. Man alive, in 1 hour, everything I thought was true actually was a skewed manipulation of my own mind, basically setting up an environment that I could live with, if that makes sense, right? What was going on in my life, my wife, my this, my kids, my that, what was going on inside my business, well, is the market's issue, and John Bohm went through and dissected every little thing, and within 1 hour, just changed my whole mindset, okay? Now, I felt great, right? Just like a lot of people feel great about listening to your podcast, they feel great about a book they read, they felt great about a seminar, but guess what? Still had a lot of work to do because I didn't do anything about anything he told me to do. He actually told me, you know what you need to do, Pace? I go, what? And he goes, a lot more high level stuff. And I said, told him an excuse. He goes, let me guess. You're going to say, I don't have the time. I go, yeah. And he goes, you need to hire an assistant. You need to hire an assistant. And for somebody listening to this, like, that's not for me. Okay. Well, here's what ended up happening. Okay. If you're a business owner right now and you don't have an assistant, and that assistant's number one job is not take things off Pace's plate every day. Look at every day, look at Pace's plate and go, shouldn't be on his plate, 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 shouldn't be on his plate. My job should be to go out and create opportunities, raise capital, find deals, recruit people to the company. I shouldn't be doing really anything else. And so on the second meeting with John Boehm says, I'm firing you. I go, what? You can't fire me, because if you fire me, then Steve's going to fire me. He goes, I'm firing you. I go, what? Why? And he goes, because you didn't do anything I told you to do from last month's meeting. Nothing. Basically, just, military wise, like on top of me. He goes, I can't mess around with people that don't take action. I literally have no time for people that don't take action. So you either take action or don't call me for next month. Here's your homework. Hire somebody. I go, okay. Man, this is the funniest thing is I was making good money, but I couldn't justify paying a $3,000 position in my company, just like an assistant, right? And this is 12, 13 years ago. So now with inflation, that's like $5,000 today in money. So I couldn't justify it. But right there, he made me pull out my phone. This is where accountability comes in play. He says, pull out your phone. We're posting an ad on Craigslist. I'm like, is that the best place to hire somebody? He goes, where are you hiring people now? I'm like, nowhere. He's like, good point. Pull out your damn phone. So he makes me pull out my phone. We post an ad. I hire somebody the very next day. Her name was Anna. She's been with me. She was with me for 9 years until she went off and built her own real estate business. This lady made me so much money. I ended up buying her family a house. That's how significant that change in my mind was. This is what happened. That woman, who I love, and I'm going to say something critical of her, she wasn't Einstein. She didn't have a PhD. She didn't have some life-inventing, crazy way of doing anything. She just was consistently pulling things off my plate. And so what happened is literally in that first 30 days, my business tripled. She didn't drive any new leads to my business. Okay. She wasn't a salesperson, but for some reason, and I'll tell you now, she was able to triple my business before I met with John Boehm the following month. How did she do that? She did that by actually picking up the damn phone, right? I'm driving, I'm in a meeting, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. A client calls me and it takes me 24 hours to call them back. Do you think clients wait around for 24 hours? No, this is the day and age of now. I was missing calls and I was, they weren't ready. Meanwhile, they were going off and hiring somebody else to do it. They were giving somebody else their money. So Anna stopped the hemorrhaging. Every lead that was coming in, now I was monetizing on them. And all of a sudden I'm like, man, I've never been so busy. What did you do? She's like, I picked up the damn phone. And so same thing now. I have a list of probably 13 people that work for me on a high level and about 700 people that work for me today. And it was all because John Boehm forced me to freaking make a Craigslist post and hire Anna. And the people that I hire. So for example, my goal last year was to buy 500 units on seller finance. Okay. That was my goal in 2021. That was my goal, 500 units. Last year, I bought 192 units. Okay. Pretty cool. It's a worthy goal, worthy accomplishment, 192 units. But I hire one key person this year, Molly. Her name is Molly. Hire one key person. And because of that one person, not my mind, not my capabilities, not my more skill sets or anything else, it was because Molly came into my organization. I was able to actually go from a goal of 500 to surpassing that and buying 1,600 units this year because I hired somebody to do things that I'm not great at. And so for me, mindset wise, a lot of you guys that are out there, you don't have to do anything on your own. So short of hiring people, who can you be around, right? You know what's funny is I don't even underwrite my multifamily deals. People are like, oh man, you must be really good at underwriting. Nope, I don't underwrite anything. I have somebody else underwrite all that stuff. I have my lender underwrite it. I have my private money. I have a guy that's one of my private money lenders that is he's an analyst for a big multifamily company. So I have him and like 12 other people look at all of our deals. I never look at the deals. I don't. I look at whether they cash flow. I look at the IRR. I look at all of those types of things, but I'm not sitting there on a computer in a spreadsheet analyzing deals. That's not my job. And so I see a lot of people trying to get into this business, and what they're doing is they're not collaborating with a community of other people that have skill sets that they don't have. They're trying to learn paperwork. That's what a transaction coordinator is for. They're trying to learn law and contracts. That's what an attorney's for. They're trying to analyze deals. That's what people who are analysts are for. Look at Ken McElroy, a good buddy of mine, big multifamily guy, has 7 analysts on his team, All these big companies have analysts all over the place. That's a full-time position. Go make friends with one of those people. You don't need to learn multifamily underwriting. Go get somebody on your team or somebody you're collaborating with that does know that. And that's what I wish I learned. I grew up as a blue collar guy and I was taught, do everything yourself, touch everything yourself, use your hands, trade your time for money. And now for me, it's like I wake up in the morning, I go, what can I take off my plate so I can focus on the 5 things that I should be focused on?
Love it. That's beautiful. But I actually thought that maybe you were going to tell me something else. Let me see if I can just share this with you.
Oh, you had the bunny story.
Exactly. I thought you were going to talk about the bunny story, but we can use this as a segue because I've seen you talk about how people are the most important thing in real estate.
Yeah.
And I immediately recognize these got to be the Flemish bunnies, right?
I don't know. I never Googled it. I never figured.
Okay.
I just look at them as the Cadbury.
This is I take my kids out to see this, and you can see my fingers next to the Flemish bunny, but you have no idea until you pick one of these things up.
Yeah, they're like 4-year-old childs.
Yeah, exactly. It goes all the way down to my knees. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's freaking huge. Yeah, for like on the people side of things, I think this is where a lot of people lose. They lose their way in this business because they all think about it as all just math and numbers, and we look at it very differently, right? How are we able to negotiate with these sellers? Well, it comes down to the first deal that I ever did. The first deal I ever did literally was the most important deal I ever did, not just because it changed my paradigm and my understanding of real estate, and it also gave me that proof of concept, right? Like people out there right now that are like, I've never done a deal before. Your biggest issue is not even doing the deal. It's the fact that you don't believe that it's possible. It's the mindset that goes along with it. So for me, the first deal I ever did goes down to people. I was a contractor at the time, and I had a lady named Bethany Willis that stops me, and she was a client of mine. So I would flip houses for her. And she came to me and she says, Pace, why are you not in real estate? And I go, I am in real estate. She says, no, you're not. You're not in real estate. And I go, yes, I am. Look at all these houses I'm flipping. She's like, you're flipping those houses for everybody but yourself. You're not a real estate investor. And she used this couple of lines she used on me, very powerful, stuck with me very strongly to this day. She says, you are as replaceable to a real estate transaction as a mobile notary. And then the next line she says is, I could replace you with a simple Google search. And I was like, damn, you're right. You could literally just Google Arizona contractors and you could replace me in a second. Anyway, I go, okay, you're right. I'm not in real estate. I guess I'm a service provider. She says, that's right. You are a service provider. You work for people who are in real estate. You are not in real estate. And then she pointed out brokers are not in real estate. They're in paperwork. They're brokering somebody else's real estate. The people who are in real estate are their clients. And I go, oh, interesting. Even a licensed real estate agent is not in real estate. And she goes, nope. She says, is a licensed CPA in the business business of their clients, like their client is a banker, their client is a vending machine repairman. Is that CPA in vending machine now? I go, no, I guess not. She goes, it's just shuffling paperwork. They're not in real estate. They're a service provider. Like, damn. And that was a moment for me. Bethany Willis then taught me how to go out and find deals. She took the time. She spent time with me. She taught me how to find deals. And she taught me how to generate phone calls coming to me. And the way at the time, this is years and years ago, the way at the time was sending out postcards before it got really, really expensive. So I sent out a swath of postcards, cost me $5,000, sent out 10,000 postcards. I got 3 calls in my first week. I missed the first 2 calls because I was too busy being a contractor. And the third call that came in was actually a lady named Bethany Willis. I'm sorry, not Bethany Willis. Bethany Willis who's taught me. It was a lady named Janie Munson. And Janie Munson calls me up and she says, hi, is this Pace Buys Houses? I go, yeah. And she says, well, I don't know how this goes, but I got your postcard. I'm just wondering, are you going to give me a cash offer on my property? Like, how does this work? Do you just text it to me? Do you just tell it to me over the phone? And I go, hold on a second. I had no idea what to do. Like, that's how limited I was in terms of my education. So on the other line, I called Bethany Willis, who taught me how to send out the postcards. I go, oh my gosh, I got a lead. What do I do? And Bethany says, go meet with her, you idiot. Like, why are you calling me? Go meet with her. Go to her house. Take photos of the house. Figure it out. And I go, I don't know how to comp a house. And so Bethany comped the house for me. And she said, don't pay over $150,000 on the house. So I come back on the other side of the phone. about 45 seconds later. And I go, hi, Janie. So I can meet you this Thursday. I went and met her, drove up to the house, stressed out of my mind, obviously not knowing what I'm going to say to a seller to try and buy her house for $150,000. And I go to the house, go to the appointment, walk in the house. Obviously the formalities, the niceties, all of that stuff ensued. We talked about, she was a retired school teacher. She's moving to Oregon. That's why she wants to sell her house. She was so busy with raising children and then a grandchild. And then she also never renovated the property in 30 plus years living there. So deferred maintenance was not the issue. It was a complete overhaul. It was a complete full reimagination of the house. 5 different designs and, motifs could have been done between all the years she had owned the property. And I look on the counter and I see 15 other postcards. I see all these business cards laying on her countertop. And I'm like, oh crap, she's been meeting with other people. And then I realized after years and years in the business, like every seller you're talking to has already spoken to 15, 20 people. Like it's just part of the game. But at that time I felt really deflated. I was like, oh man, I'm not the first one here. I was so limited in my understanding that I thought I was going to be the first person to the property. That's how stupid I was. So I said, well, it looks like you're talking to a lot of other people. Why haven't you sold the house? Like what's kept you from selling the house? That's the most important question I ever asked a seller. I learned that now. And I said, this is what I said to her. I said, catch me up to speed. And now every appointment, years and years and years and years later, I still say the same thing. Catch me up to speed to every seller. Catch me up to speed, catch me up to speed, catch me up to speed. So she caught me up to speed. She told me about the people who came into her property. They took photos. They had a clipboard. They were very professional, yet very stuffy. And she said, they beat up my house. They told me I need to renovate it. Agents that were going to list it told me I need to renovate it before they list the property. Investors came in here and used my lack of updating as mechanism against me to lowball me. And I said, okay, well, why haven't you chosen one of these people? What are you looking for? She says, well, I have an offer at 165, but I need a higher number. And I said, okay, well, what are you thinking? And she goes, well, I need something probably around 175. This is my only asset I have. My pension's not going to make it for me for retirement. And I really need a high purchase price. And I'm sitting here going, there's nothing I can do for you internally in my brain. And so at the time I didn't have a filter. So I just said, well, I don't think I can help you. My number is dramatically lower than that. And you're super nice and amazing. And I've enjoyed our time together, but I don't want to waste your time. I don't think I can help you. And she's like, really? You don't think you can help me? I go, no, my price is way lower than that. She says, what's your price? I go, literally I say, and this is now what I still say to sellers. I go, my price, I'm too embarrassed to tell you my price. And I literally was too embarrassed because I was too new in the business, fresh, budding seed just coming out of the ground, very, very brand new. And she goes, really? You won't give me the offer? I go, no, I'm not even going to lowball you because you're saying all these other people are lowballing you. I don't want to be one of those guys. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to get out of here. I'll stop wasting your time. She goes, okay. Starts walking me to the door. And I have this moment of clarity that I actually realized I can't do anything to help this lady. And I might not ever see her again. She seems like a really nice lady. So I turn around in the doorway and I said, is there anything else I can do to help you? And she's like, I'm so confused right now. I'm so confused. What do you mean? You want to help me, but you don't want to buy my house and you won't even give me the offer? I go, yeah, I'm a contractor. I have guys that can come in here and load up your truck or whatever you need. If you need sprucing up, you need landscape done, I can help you out. And she says, what are you, a Boy Scout? I go, yeah, actually I am. I'm an Eagle Scout. My parents wouldn't let me get my driver's license without an Eagle Scout. And she's like, really? I go, yeah. So she goes, okay, you really want to know my problem? I go, yeah, I really want to know your problem. She goes, okay, it's weird. I go, I'm all about weird. Let's do it. So she walks me to her back sliding glass door. She opens the sliding glass door and she shows me 3 massive freaking bunnies. What's the name of these bunnies?
I think they're Flemish bunnies.
Cool. They're massive, like humongous. They have no reason they should even be in Arizona, which is where I'm from. And I'm like, okay, what does this have to do with anything that we're talking about? She says, I'm moving to Oregon. There's no way I can take these bunnies with me. It's been basically raising these things for the last, 4 years. I need to rehome these bunnies. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't made a decision on who I'm going to sell my house to, because then I've got this thing in my mind of like, I can't move forward because I haven't solved this problem. And that was such a valuable lesson to me too, is because you'll find sellers that you're negotiating with that just won't sign the contract. And my acquisition team now, I go, what's holding them up? Where are their bunnies? What bunnies do they have that are holding them up from making a decision? Because that was her problem. Janie's problem was she probably would have taken the 165 offer from that person, but the bunnies were still an issue, right? So internally and subconsciously, she was slow playing everybody. So I go, yeah, I can help you. And she goes, you can help me? I go, yeah. So I call this one person that I could rely on, no matter what time of day. I call my mom. So I get my mom on speakerphone, and I'm like, hey mom, I'm with Janie Munson. Here's the situation, bunnies, blah, blah, blah. She needs somebody to rehome them. 45 minutes later, my mom shows up. And of course, through this 45 minutes, I'm building a rapport with Janie, talking about my school teachers that I adored and loved. And my mom comes to the house 45 minutes later. She pulls up in a red truck I've never seen before. I have no idea where she got the red truck. So in that time frame, my mom found a truck and drove all the way up to Janie's house. And she loads the trucks up, or she loads the bunnies up. And I introduced her to Janie, and my mom goes, Pace always loved his elementary teachers. And I'm like, Janie, I told you I'm not lying. She's like, so you really just want to help me? I go, yeah, I just really want to help you. My mom leaves with the bunnies. Janie is in like befuddlement. She is so confused that somebody actually helped her, didn't have any ulterior motive. She gives me a hug awkwardly. It was an awkward hug. She thought I was basically going to stab her in the back at any second. She thought the whole time I was going to stab her in the back. Well, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks goes by, I get a call from Janie Munson, and she says, Pace, Janie Munson. I go, hey, Janie, how's it going? How's the move? Did you find somebody by your house? And she goes, yeah, I did. I did find somebody by my house. And she says, I'm a school teacher, so I gave myself an assignment. My assignment was to make a decision within 2 weeks of the day that I met you, and today's the day. I go, amazing. How can I help you? Anything you need? And she's like, yeah, I want to know when you're coming up to my house to sign the contract. And I'm like, now I'm confused. What's going on? And she's like, I decided today that I'm selling my house to you. And I'm like, I'm so confused. She says, Pace, out of everybody I met, 15 people before you, 15 people after you, you were the only person that actually offered to help me with no motive behind it. You actually spent time and hung out. You brought your own mother to my house. She says, you're the kind of person I want to do business with. And she said, you got rid of the thing that was holding me up from making all my decisions and moving forward. And I said, well, I told you, Janie, I can't pay the number you were looking for. And she says, I know, Pace, but I also know, understanding your character, that I can trust whatever number you gave me. So why don't you grab your paperwork, come up to my house, and let's get this deal done. And I'm just blown away. I'm like, I'm surprised that this is happening. So who do I call? I don't even know how to fill out a contract. So I call Bethany Willis. I go, Bethany, I got my first contract, but I don't know how to fill out the paperwork. And she's like, Pace, it's easy. Purchase price, close of escrow date. Who's going to do the paperwork? What's your earnest money? Da, da, da. I'm like, I know, but I can't do it. So Bethany says, pick me up. Let's drive up there together. We pick her up, go to Janie's house, sign the contract. And Janie goes on and on and on about my relationship. And I'm in like an emotional state over this, because I'm looking at this deal. We signed the contract at $150,000, which is the price that Bethany told me to sign it at, 15 grand lower than the next best offer. And I walk out in the car with Bethany and I said, man, I'm just blown away. What happened? And Bethany says, Pace, you found the bunnies. You found the bunnies. You found the physical and mental hurdle that this lady was going through. And she says, in all my 15 years of being in real estate, it took me 12 years to learn that lesson. And you learned it on your first deal. And I went that week. I went back to the first I went back to multiple appointments that I was basically having during that 2 week time period. And I used the bunnies mentality to walk into every situation. What do you truly need? What's the best situation for you? Whether it's me or somebody else, even if it's a broker or another investor, or maybe it's you need to stay in the house and you need a personal loan. Well, I found companies that do that too. Whatever it is, I'm looking for the best possible outcome for my client. And when I did that, I dominated. And I became one of the top closers in the nation. And people started asking me to go on stages and teaching them, how are you negotiating? I'm like, well, I find the bunnies. It's the first thing I do. I walk into every situation and I go, what are your bunnies? I don't literally say, what are your bunnies? But I am sitting there thinking, where are the bunnies? Where are the bunnies? Where are the bunnies? What's the thing that you're not going to show me, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, until I've built enough rapport and trust for you to open up that sliding glass door and reveal the real problem, the real hurdle, the real obstacle that's really keeping you from moving forward. And that has served me in every aspect of my life. Every time I'm across the table from somebody I'm doing business with, somebody I'm hiring, somebody that's asking for a raise, my wife, my children, whatever it is, I'm looking for their bunnies. What is the thing that they're having a hard time with? And I'm going to negotiate or help from that standpoint rather than walking into a homeowner's house or a multifamily property with a clipboard trying to beat up everybody on price. And you look at the way I bought the deal with Mario. What were Mario's hot buttons? Mario's hot buttons are, I don't want to deal with taxes. Okay, easy. I can structure that. I want a high purchase price. Okay, we can figure that out as long as we do good. You give me good terms. I want a monthly payment, but I don't want any more headache. I don't want to deal with tenants anymore. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, those are reasons, but that's not bunnies. That's not bunnies. What was the bunny with Mario? The bunny was he had a 12-year-old child that told him, Dad, I never see you. You're always over at that property repairing it. That was the bunnies, not the other things. The other things are reasons. There's the bunnies, the emotional, the subconscious, the thing that's holding people up from making a decision. And so every single conversation I had with Mario leading up to the point where we signed the contract was about his 12-year-old son. Man, Mario, I can't wait to get this deal done with you. I'm excited to get a text message from you in 4 months talking about the fun thing that you and your son did. That I want to hear your son say, Dad, I love being with you. Man, I could literally get emotional thinking about this, because that's, if I pulled up Mario's text messages to me, every month he's sending me a picture of him and his son. They drive up to Dallas, they go to Six Flags, they go here, they go there. They're in San Angelo, so they're 3 hours away from any big town. And they'll drive and they'll listen to baseball games on the radio, kind of like Mario used to listen to the baseball games on the radio with his dad. And he says it was all because of you. I'm able to live this life. And so while everybody else is going in here negotiating numbers, I'm in there trying to search for the bunnies. I'm basically a bunny breeder. I'm just constantly finding bunnies, breeding bunnies, just growing. And I could go on and on with every single seller, every single deal I've bought. There's a bunny. It's never the reason that you think. It's never the, I want a high purchase price. It's never the, okay, but why? Why do they want a high purchase price? Just because they're mathematical? No, it's because Mario goes, I want a good payment every month coming in so I can focus on spending time with my son, and I could spend some of that money on tickets to this and that and this and that and and I don't want to worry about it getting a call from a tenant. And at no point did it feel like a negotiation.
But you know what? I wanted to have an opportunity to ask you about mentorship, because your mentorship program is really amazing. Your people, I can tell you have an amazing group. This is Sanari and Lynn. I met them just before Jake and Gino, and Gabriella Decker, who helped.
Oh yeah, I love Gabriella. Yeah,
she's amazing, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, because the people around you are so excited. And I asked Gabriella, this is an amazing event you set up. Wow, just thank you. And she said, you know what? This is just what Pace's people do. Pace is out there helping people. And that's what he taught us to do, to go out and make amazing meetups, events, just go out and help people. Yeah, Gabrielle is just amazing. Maybe you could just tell us briefly, how would you recognize an unhealthy mentoring relationship? And how do you find a good mentoring relationship?
I'm trying to break the industry of mentorships. I'm trying to break it and reinvent it altogether. And somebody that treats a mentorship as a casual experience is somebody I would stay away from. Meaning, if it's just a series of videos and like one coaching call that you don't even know the other students, you don't know the other people, that's not a mentorship. That's a following, and that's an audience, right? I give away more stuff on my YouTube channel than most people that charge $60,000 for a mentorship. The main thing that I would look for in a mentorship is a community, because when the mentor is not around, what about the leaders? What about the people that mentor trained 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Where are those people? Well, if that mentorship doesn't have the leaders from 4 years ago, then that means that mentorship was never successful. So you probably should stay away from it as well. My leaders never leave. We have a lady named April Giuliano, homeless, 3 years ago, joins my mentorship, living in somebody's garage. This year, 2022, she made $1.4 million take home. Okay. Guess where April is? every single day. She's helping other new students that are going through the same situation. So look for a community of people. Okay. And where does that community come from? It always comes from the top down. It has to be built from the top down. I will spend 20 to 30 hours a week with my students. We have 23 support calls every single week, not just with me, but other things. My bookkeeper comes in, my CPA comes in, my attorney comes in, my business partner comes in, my operations manager comes in, my multifamily team comes in, my capital raising team comes in. Everybody comes in and actually does Zooms on very specific topics, only private. But more importantly, the 3 or 4 Zooms I do every week are nothing compared to all the live things I did. I traveled to 71 cities this year. One of them, I'll tell you 2, and then I'll be done. One of them, I just go, you know what I want to do, sweetheart? Tell my wife, I want to go trick-or-treating with the sub-2 students in Boston. So we literally picked up our family and we traveled to Boston. This is about a month and a half ago for Halloween. And we spent 5 days in Boston, did one meetup in Boston, another meetup in New Hampshire. And we just meet up with our people and I shake hands with them. And I spend the money to get out there and do meetups and buy out bars and buy out circus things for the kids. And we just get out there and meet with people. And then 2 weeks ago for Thanksgiving, we had a student that was homeless when he joined. He just, I keep bringing up students who are homeless, but most of them are obviously not. 99.9% of them are well off. I have a student that was homeless living in a shed. He had mental illness from a death of his mom and death of his father at a young age, and not mental illness. He had mindset issues. And he comes into the program, he learns how to do seller finance, buys his first deals, 0% seller finance, and moves his wife of 10 years into their first home. And so I go, you know what I'm doing? I'm flying out to Arkansas. So I flew out to Arkansas, hung out with Lucas and his wife. But I said, while I'm in Arkansas for Thanksgiving, why don't we as a community get together and feed 400 homeless people? And so that's what we did. We got together for Thanksgiving. I didn't spend Thanksgiving with my mom and dad and my wife's mom and dad. I took my wife, my girls out to Arkansas, Little Rock, and we had 400 person meetup and we fed homeless people and bought out Sam's Club and bought out all this stuff. And I'm the one spending the money. I'm getting out there as their mentor and meeting every single person across the country and really getting to know them and doing deals with them all over the country. So that's maybe 10% of what I do. And so for me, I'm just trying to create community from the top down approach. And what happens is when people see their leader doing those things, they then have permission to go do it themselves. And I would say that on a weekly basis, we probably across the country have 50 to 70 meetups happening every single week.
Love it. Best answer I've ever heard to that question. Look for the community. Now, I think I got to let you go. This is not the Joe Rogan show. We don't have hour 2, hour 3, but I just want to make sure that everybody is able to contact you. What's the best way to get in touch with Pace Morby?
Great question. I mean, I don't really answer phone calls anymore. I have a team of people that do all that kind of stuff. I answer just about every Instagram DM. So if you have a question on Instagram, DM me on Instagram. I can help you. At least within a one minute thing, I'll voice memo you a quick question. My team will also be in the DMs a lot of times. And if you have a question that we've done a YouTube video about, they'll take that YouTube video and give it to you as a resource. So we're very resourceful. We're constantly giving, making sure that your guys' journey is easier along the way. But I'd say Instagram at Pace Morby. I'm the only one that's blue check verified Pace Morby. All the other ones are crypto bot scammers. So watch out for that.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
You're the man, George.